Erín Moure here, and I'm with,
Kelly Shepard.
and we're going to talk about Dog and Moon, Kelly Shepard's latest book of poems, out from the Oskana Poetry Series, a fab series from the University of Regina Press. And I'm going to ask Kelly 4 questions. First of all, Kelly, before I ask, you're a poet of a city-based, eco-poetic, land, wind, weather, birds are present in your work. And the poet walks among these in a built world, present to other living beings. And this time, your poems are ghazals in Dog and Moon. And in this ancient Arabic form, which is a leapt lyric of couplets, poems of love and metaphysics originally, an unrelation between each stanza provokes relation. As a Canadian form, though it's dropped some rules following John Thompson's Stiltjack in 1978 and Phyllis and Webb's Water and Light in the 80s. Kelly, you use this form's disconnect of possibilities to range widely, to meditate on writing the poem and on being alive among leaves and lights, listening to and wandering urban earth and its presences. So my first question of you today is that the book starts out by saying a man walks out of the forest, and then it follows this man, and only in the fourth poem does an I speak. Reminds me of Kierkegaard, who in writing his swell book, which I'm the only person I know who's read, De omnibus dubitandum est, everything must be doubted, or il faut douter de tout, which is because I read it in French. He first had to invent heteronym, Johannes Climacus, to do his doubting for him. Because if we start with our own already formed I, we're already not doubting everything. In any case, to get back to Dog and Moon, then, what might the ghazal do to bring us close to the delightful openings of doubt?
So these poems came from a sort of an unfortunate time in my life a couple of years ago where I had been just a total dry spell, like no writing was coming for a couple of years. It was depressing, and also I was receiving a lot of rejection letters for previous things that I've been submitting and so on. So it was not great. And then just sort of out of the blue, and especially weird timing, very busy time at work, a whole bunch of writing just started happening, just an avalanche of it. So which is great. And I didn't know where it was coming from. So I wouldn't say that I set out to write in the ghazal form so much as almost like it found me. It was a way that connected what I was doing, which initially was just a whole bunch of random stuff. And the idea of the leap, which you mentioned, is what really connected me with it. This idea of the intuitive leap between different images and ideas. And a night is made of poems, the connective tissue between two people, between you and the dark and the morning, a spider's web that stretches to the moon, or at least up into the sky and out of sight. Mooring, morning, morning. The earth's tears are light. They fall upwards and we awaken. The first thing we do is think of someone and wonder where they are. If you write about someone, that means you love them. Why not just tell them you love them? A poem is made of distances.
Poems. My second question is that in your poems, there are references more than once to vibration, which is kind of sound without a sound, or not a sound, detectable by proximity of the skin or brain inside the skull, by movements in the ear apparatus. And you notice vibrations in terms of colors, and vibration, one of your expressions in the poem, is in the ears of the ears. What does vibration mean to you? Could you say more about what it means to you in articulating the sound of the poem?
So I think vibration is, well, it's all around us, right? Like it's physics talks about vibration as being the way sound travels, the way light travels.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. It's the way we receive information. It's the way the universe interacts with us, the way the universe speaks to us, we might say. So I'm really interested in that. And I think a lot of the writing I'm doing is trying to connect with that. This is also inspired by this book right here, an
Dennis Lee.
essay called Cadence, Country, Silence. I might have said that wrong. Cadence, Silence, Country. Sorry. Anyway, where he talks about this idea of this thrum that's going on in the background of everything all the time. And as a poet, he tries to tap into it. So I think that's really interesting. I feel like I was doing that as well, trying.
I think you did more than try. Success, by the way, folks. My third question, if the poem is a place of thinking, as one of your poems says, is the poem then a thing of the mind where language addresses itself? Or does it mirror and invent the world in the mind in order to be present to it more physically and fully? How do the life of the mind and that of the world and the here and now would be my question. How do they cohabit for you in the poem?
So I don't think I buy into the idea of the mind just as a separate thing. The mind as distinct from the body. So a poem is in the mind, but it's also in our body, in our organs, in our skin, and our senses, and so on. So I wonder if a poem is out there already, right? It's something that exists without us. They need us to write them down, of course, and then what language we speak and where we are,
right,
what country we're in, and what era we're in will influence the form that it will take when we write it down.
Okay.
But that it's there whether we are writing it down or not.
That's amazing. And while we're writing it down or not, my fourth question is, we're in Edmonton, as folks, the background has changed temporarily, Amiskwaciwâskayan, a teeming mid-northern Alberta city in which the influence of the treaties, Treaty 6 in particular, though not strong enough, is more recognized these days. And you, Kelly, you're a white guy from Smithers, or the Smithers area, a small northern BC city built on the unceded lands of the Wet'suwet'en. And your poems, strongly rooted in the physical world, but not landscaping and nature for us, do not reinforce hierarchy and exclusion, but they offer a gentle seeing and trust. They hinge on and open thoughts of earth and cohabitation without making big claims for themselves or their poet or appropriating other people's worldviews. And for those readers who might find you in Ontario and Quebec, where I usually am and where we're far more urbanized in general, is there anything about Smithers in Edmonton that feeds or provokes or guides you in inhabiting language, poetry, and the here and now of the world?
I think Smithers was an interesting place to grow up. On the one hand, like you mentioned, Edmonton is on Treaty 6 territory.
Yeah.
When I was a kid in Smithers, nobody really knew. I shouldn't say nobody knew. We never talked about, nobody I even knew talked about ceded or unceded or treaty land. So that wasn't a part of my awareness until much later. I lived on an acreage way out of town in the bush. It was called Stillwater Farm, which was a polite way of saying a swamp.
I love swamps.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So big frog ponds and lots of frogs and frog eggs and bugs. And my brothers and I went camping and hiking and everything all the time. So I think that comes into my poems too, to this day, like this awareness of being surrounded by other living things, other species. Yeah, I think that gave me sort of a sense of belonging and respect for the natural world, which I hope comes out in the poems.
Oh, it does. It does. And I like how the poems don't hierarchize, or they don't, the human is not, there's no human exceptionalism, except maybe that the human writes them down, but there's no human exceptionalism that hierarchizes. So that's a really beautiful thing in the book. And out of time. And so we have to say goodbye. Dog and Moon, everybody, by Kelly Shepherd. Get it at your local independent bookseller. I'm Erín Moure.
I'm Kelly Shepherd.